the immersion-based learning by doing, has been understood for a long time, not even outside of VR. Learn by doing, which is the basis of apprenticeships. You learn much faster, you absorb longer, it retains in your brain. So if you learn by reading a book, you'll retain 10%. You learn by a classroom or a video or workshop, you retain 20%. You learn by doing, you retain 80%. So you make smarter people. VR allows you to be in a situation, a simulation, whatever it may be, and I can have you learn by doing. And so through this medium, you can actually get smarter people.
Welcome to the Strategic Momentum Podcast, the show where we share tips, stories, and advice from progressive leaders on what it takes to break through that business inertia and propel you and your business forward. I'm your host, Connie Steele. In today's era of rapid innovation, companies of all sizes must constantly evolve in order to remain competitive. Disruption can happen at any time, so staying ahead of the curve is no longer a differentiator, but a necessity. But innovation for innovation's sake is not enough. With continued consumer expectations that products and services focus on the greater good, businesses have a new opportunity to disrupt markets through purpose-driven innovation. It's that motivation that comes from passion and impact, not profit. Yao Huang is the founder and managing partner of the Hatchery, an organization instrumental in developing the New York technology ecosystem with an international advisory consultancy and incubator. Named by Forbes as one of 11 women at the center of New York's digital scene, by BetaBeat as one of 25 women driving New York's tech scene, and as one of TechWeek's 100 most influential people in tech, Yao believes in leveraging technological disruption and innovation to scale social impact. And one of those areas is virtual reality. In this episode, Yao shares how VR is redefining the way we learn for the better and the value of harnessing this form of learning by doing to propel businesses forward. We'll start by looking at how her non-linear career journey, led by this desire to constantly pursue new areas of interest in her pursuit of finding happy, fundamentally shaped her personal and business philosophies.
My journey was based on a series of choices I made. It wasn't very linear at all. In fact, it covers quite a wide breadth. And it stems from an early decision I made when I was in my early teenage years, when I was reading up on Da Vinci and all the things he did. I was really drawn to that, how he could be an artist and a scientist and a philosopher and all these things. Like, why do I have to go to school just to be one thing? Because my Tiger Mom parents taught me, you got to go to be a doctor, which means you got to take certain classes and you go to medical school and you be a doctor. I'm like, that's it. That's all I get to do in life. But what if I like tennis or something else? So I'm like, you know what? I want to be good at many things. And maybe I could make a career out of them. I didn't think that far ahead. I wanted to be able to do many things. That's what my teenage version of myself came up with. And I came up with 4 areas from, following the traditional Asian path of being a doctor to maybe business, sports, and just be more well-rounded, include the arts, right? So I'm like, of all of them, the hardest seems to be getting the science doctor stuff out of the way. Seems like that requires some proper training. The other ones seem like much easier, right? My teenage mind said. So I went down and I did what I was told, and I did steer off a little bit, ended up going to pharmacy school instead.
Still science path, though. Still science path.
Still science. It's as close as I can get. Because basically, I watched the movie, saw medical life was horrible. So I'm like, I'm not doing that. My guidance counselor, who was a guidance counselor in a majority Asian high school, advised that maybe I should go be a pharmacist. I can get it done in 6 years. You make lots of money and you get a doctor title. Like, great, checks all my mommy boxes. So I did that. And it's early decisions. You're kind of like, you get what you get. You don't get too many choices in life. That changes as you get older, right?
Yeah.
So as luck would have it, I ended up at a school that was the most connected to the pharmaceutical industry, which is the business side of it all, or the business side of healthcare. which is exactly what I enjoyed in the end. Because I tried them all. I tried all the flavors. I licked all the ice cream. And like in the end, I liked business. I really didn't like the whole science of it. Not because of the science, but because it was very lonely. In a lab, you're by yourself. And there's a lot of stress in the other areas. Like, I think there could be more to this than just work, right? So I ended up getting a degree. I have a doctorate in pharmacy. I went to work in the pharmaceutical industry, did really well, made lots of money. And as a young person, I hit everything you're supposed to do in our society. You're supposed to buy a house, you're supposed to buy a fancy car, you're supposed to go on fancy vacation, all that stuff. I was like an advertiser's dream, like a very consumer, right? And then I got bored. Like, what do I need to buy all this stuff for? As a young person, I got everything I needed and wanted. And work, I was very fulfilled. It was great. But eventually, there was nothing more to it. So, long story short, through a number of circumstances, it was at the time of the internet boom and the first internet collapse. And at that time, I'm like, wow, this internet thing, I think it's going to take off. Like, I think it's going to be something really meaningful in our life and society. And I think I'd like to be involved in that. And it was also at the time, it took me about a year of searching for the next step of what I wanted to do. And I wanted to start a business. I didn't know what business. I just wanted. So my friends came back from sabbatical. We had dinner and we were just talking about tech and the internet. And at the end, they're like, hey, you want to start a company together? And at the dinner table, I said, okay, sounds good. Like, very quick decision, but because I was thinking about a lot of things along the same vein for a year already. So I was ready to make that jump. I did it. And then, so I started my first tech company. It did really well. It was doubling in revenues every year. And then eventually, fast forward a number of years, I got bored again. Because once it got over the building stage, it became redundant. It became the same. And that's exactly what you want a good business to be. Just like same stuff over and over. And I got bored. I started the next company. And this is where it got me into building of companies. And I realized while building companies, I really like the building portion of it. I like the activity of doing and creating. And so I got into that, which is basically what Hatchery is now. Like, we incubate companies, we invest in companies. So moved from healthcare to tech and then eventually to finance. And as life went along, I'm always presented with forks in the road, choices, and opportunity. And the way I make them is a little different from most in that I'm not looking for more. I'm looking for happy. What is this decision going to make me happier? Am I going to not be bored at it for a long period of time? And then I choose, is this going to be fun? Sounds like fun. I haven't done this before. Sounds like fun. And surprisingly, I am continually presented with these kind of opportunities and choices every year. But it's because of a network of friends driven through relationships based on karma, like doing good for others without expecting anything in return. And then just being in the right place at the right time. But where I have gotten myself into now is very different from where I started. And I think if I had continued down the original path, I would never have ended up here, nor the richness of the sets of opportunities that are being presented today.
Yao's determination to break the mold started early, as she rejected what was expected of her in order to forge her own path. She realized the importance of fulfillment in her work and listened to her inherent need to be happy, take risks, and try new things, even if that meant stepping far out of her comfort zone. It was all about redefining her own purpose. This was even reflected in her experimentation with stand-up comedy.
I wish I did it sooner. I wish I did it in my teenage years. This is something I think everyone should do, improv or stand-up. It breaks you out of a mold, and it works different muscles that you may not use on a regular basis. My brain feels different when I'm writing. But I did it initially because I saw one of my friends, I went to see her do it. And like, she can do it. I can do this. This was like fun, right? So I took a class. It was not a convenient time either. I was running a company. I was taking the Series 7 test, and so I was studying for that. And meanwhile, on top of that, I throw on this additional class that I was taking. So I took a stand-up comedy class, and it was good. The instructor said, it's great. We did a performance. She's like, come back and do it again. I'm like, really? Me? Okay. So basically, I didn't suck. And I found it fun. I like writing it. I like making people laugh. And then it became part of my day. So it wasn't just something I did at night. It became part of who I was. And in fact, the reason why I like it so much because it's actually who I am. I'm very much a goofball. But up until then, only my friends saw that. And the rest of the world saw this version that I thought I had to be to play in the business world from what I saw around me. So it was very, serious and, I got things done. But with my friends, I was fun, I was silly, and that started coming out. And with that coming out, I actually did better in business. It made me a better public speaker. So everything just multiplied. And it's because it's more natural, more authentic. And funny enough, I was on a conference call with an investor last month who was trying to push the price of something down. And I just cracked a joke. He loved it. And that joke, which I thought was just a joke, he took seriously and then said, all right, I think we could sell it for double. I was like, so I took something from a negative position to a double positive off of a joke. And it's a great way to disarm people. It's a great way to get people on your side. It's a great tool, I think. Humor, that is. And I do it because it then also, funny enough, checks off that creative box that I like, that my 12-year-old version of myself had thought I could do. So I made a goal that as a stand-up comedian, I like to be paid doing it. I don't want to just do it for fun. I want to get paid. Then I'm for real. Even if it's $20, I can get paid $20 from a club. Well, so lo and behold, this year I'm getting paid to be a host at an award show, and way more than $20. I was like, this is fantastic. This is for real. Like, people really like me as a funny person.
And this desire to pursue different areas of interest, Yao tells us, was just innate and something she believes is inherent in others as well. The difference is that in past generations, it wasn't recognized as a viable or accepted option unlike today. So knowing that you've inherently known that you want to try different things, you've had this sort of test and learn mindset with that goal of finding happy. Where do you think that came from? Because it's something that is, I think, native to the millennials and that generation, but it's certainly not something that is necessarily native to, Gen Xers and older. It was that linear path. It was doing your time, and progression is about material versus fulfillment.
It's because they were brainwashed better. That's all. And when you're young, you think the same thing. You want happy. Like, I want ice cream. I want to go to a good adventure, right? You want happy. You want to be happy. You want what you want. It's just that you got brainwashed into wanting and doing and not knowing that you're allowed to have choice. It's just who I am. Like, the choices I make are mine, and no one could ever have steered me anyway. My parents never really guided me. Like, I put myself into summer programs. Because I thought they were interesting. I made all the choices. And I think that is innate in you and everyone else. But our society, early days, really was around follow in your lane, do as you're told. And maybe it was drilled into too many people too hardly, like too hard, But now, honestly, that not the millennial generation, but the Gen X generation and even the boomers are realizing this now as well. It's not a generational thing. It's innate. You just didn't know you were allowed to. You wanted permission to. What I see most often right now are people in their 50s and 60s looking at a whole second career, thinking about this stuff of, what do I want? What's going to make me happy? what's my next life going to look like? And I'm seeing it across the board. It's just that this millennial generation and the one coming up, they know they have choice and they're allowed to choose.
By exploring a range of opportunities, Yao's been constantly pivoting, learning, and growing, and she's created a new definition of career success that isn't about wealth development. It's about personal development and delivering social impact. Her choice to want to build things, redefine the success points, and thus determine ways to do things differently was the impetus behind her incubator, the Hatchery.
That's why I'm doing this thing. And that's why other people are doing similar things, because that's what they enjoy doing, right? How the incubator runs is more about the present and what companies need to grow now. It's not really about the past. And it's about being innovative with current times. And I'm shaped by what I see and what these companies need. And what that was, companies in the earliest stages need money and they need customers and revenue. So I just focused there. And I realized that you can reverse engineer to some form of demand, market demand, by just looking at what people want to buy. And I tend to work in the enterprise space because it's more predictable. And by people, I mean key decision makers in companies, right? When you deal in enterprise. So what is it that they want to buy? What are the trends now? It's very easy to see. And with the right relationships, you can ask them. They'll tell you. And then you just build that thing. And then you have your first customer. You're making money. Now you're sustainable. Then off of that, you can raise money. And then if you can find a space where there's a lot of demand and need, you can build something that you can sell. So that's how our incubator runs. And I could do that for corporations as well as founders.
Yao's advice to early stage companies is to reduce risk by first getting customers and then building the product so that by the time it's finished, the company should be ready to generate revenue. And she ties this strategy to the Hatchery's philosophy of shooting for base hits, $50 to $200 million companies rather than unicorns. By building these businesses quickly, a time horizon of 3 to 5 years, it offers a path for early stage founders to be able to take their ideas and make it a reality, thus achieving what they consider to be a success and maximizing their happiness.
Sometimes $1 trillion isn't even enough, right? They just keep wanting more and more and more, which is very much a Wall Street mentality, is that there never is enough, right? So I have a very common conversation with a lot of the founders that we bring in, which is I try to get everyone to give me their number. And people generally have very modest goals. And it's usually $5 to $20 million. It's kind of like their number. So then I just add all the numbers up from the founders and like, all right, that's where we need to exit at, which is actually pretty modest.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have, let's say, if on the high end, if everyone's number is $10 million, you have 4 founders, you only need $40 million. Let's add a little bit more, $50 million. Everyone's good. That's actually considered a very small exit. So now you can actually be something. You can do something that is the industry considered small, and be happy and successful. You just have to not care about what everyone else thinks and puts their goals and judgments on you. You kind of have to clear that out, and then you'll be fine. Otherwise, you're making choices based on someone else. You'll never be happy. You'll never hit the goal because there's an unalignment of personal goals and what you're actually doing. Right? If you're taking someone else's goals as your personal goal, and then you're doing that, you're not going to be happy.
When it comes to innovation and disruptive technologies, a major area of focus for the Hatchery is virtual reality. While it hasn't gone fully mainstream, the value and benefits of its application to support learning by doing has been known for some time. Yao explains.
A lot of people see it as gaming because that's where the early adopters came from. They were gamers. And so as a result, a lot of games are made for them. But I bet you didn't know that VR has been around for 60 years. It's not new at all. And there's been a lot of research, usually done in very boring white papers and clinical trials, out of hospitals, out of universities, out of governments. And there's a wealth of information about the value of virtual reality. And that most of the public has not read, does not know, doesn't see, but a lot of professionals do. And there are trials and results that have shown you can remove the need of morphine pre and post-op by applying virtual reality into the experience, which I find amazing. Right?
Yeah.
You don't need pain meds, right? So that's kind of interesting. The immersion-based learning by doing, has been understood for a long time, not even outside of VR. Learn by doing, which is the basis of apprenticeships. You learn much faster, you absorb longer, it retains in your brain. So if you learn by reading a book, you'll retain 10%. You learn by a classroom or a video or workshop, you retain 20%. You learn by doing, you retain 80%. So you make smarter people. VR allows you to be in a situation, a simulation, whatever it may be, and I can have you learn by doing. And so through this medium, you can actually get smarter people. And it is a very modern form of education that some places are doing. The country of China itself has a VR education department. And our country barely can get books in all the schools. There is going to be this gap between those who adopt the technologies that are coming out now and those who are fighting it. And that gap can't be closed later. So you're either going to be back in the Stone Ages or you're going to join the science and space age. Like, you can't fight it much. Like, it used to be something you can recover from. But imagine if one company starts using AI for 10 years and you finally catch on. They're going to be light years. You can't even catch up.
The ability to learn by doing is a key advantage of applying VR technology. While the delivery method is different, the functional activity remains the same.
The VR is just a new format, right? There was radio, then there was television, then we had mobile phones. VR is just something you put on your head, and I can transport you to anywhere I want. So I can teach you English by living in New York. Or for everyone who's listening here, I can teach you Spanish by living in Spain without a plane ticket or hotel rooms. You're going for coffee. You're getting out of the airport. You're getting a job. You're picking up a date at the bar. You're going to the beach. You got to use your Spanish, right? And so that full immersion, we already know. If I moved you to Spain and made you live there for 6 months, your Spanish is going to be really good. Let's do it with the headset. So it's not that big of a leapfrog to really understand this. We're just taking what we already know and putting it into this format. It's like taking Harry Potter's book and making a movie. We get it. Same thing. Right? Same thing. Different medium, right? So that's English. I can teach you how to be a better leader by putting you in scenarios where you need to use leadership skills, but you don't have to have the embarrassment of real life. If you piss someone off, you might get fired, right? Or it might be, just pushed aside. So here, let's put you in a scenario where I need you to show me your leadership. Let's see how you deal with it.
Well, I can think about, the corporations where training new employees on different skills, where there's obviously a faster ramp up to that. Just, there's a lot of relevancy where you can, the speed to market to get your workforce ready to engage in whatever they need to do, or if they need to shift, or because the market is changing so fast, that to help them adjust and learn a new skill quickly that would be complementary to what they do, or maybe even possibly different than what they do, but you could still retain great talent, could be an opportunity.
So Walmart recently trained their entire workforce in virtual reality, right? And great. They're going to learn faster. They make fewer mistakes. They're going to learn how to. And, some others don't.
And there are other beneficial applications where someone can hone their skills by practicing virtually.
Wouldn't it be great if I trained a doctor virtually first before they tried it on you for the first time? You don't want to be the first guinea pig. You may want to be like number 100 before he tries that surgical procedure or tries to save your child, right? Because it's the practice of medicine. Medicine's a practice. So, but there always have to be the first practice, and the second, and the 10th, and the 100th, before they get to the 1000th, right? Before they get experience. That's why they have a residency program where they practice for 5 years, right? But they're practicing on real people. Wouldn't it be great if they practice virtually first, right?
Absolutely.
Or lawyers. Would you want your lawyer to try you in front of a court as the first time? Don't you want him to practice first? Virtual reality lets you practice, and it seems real.
The application of virtual reality has been much more expansive than the entertainment use cases that many tend to be familiar with. This new format offers alternative ways for companies to train their employees so that they learn faster, become smarter, and more effective than ever before. With so many benefits for students, employees, consumers, and society at large, what's keeping organizations from fully leveraging the power of this technology?
So they don't know. They don't read. They just don't know. The data's out there. The professionals who do know don't have the power to make these decisions. And up until most recently, the technology, the hardware itself was expensive. A little, not crazy expensive, but a little cost prohibitive. The prices have dropped tremendously now. Everyone has a phone in their pocket. My iPhone costs $800, okay? And lots of people have these devices in their pocket. The VR is nowhere near as expensive, $50. Right? The new stuff coming out, it gets replaced next year. It's now $100, right? The latest ones are about $600. It's still cheaper than the phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's about content being produced. So content right now is still expensive to be produced, but there's a lot out there that people can use. It's about large organizations, universities, school systems, corporations, committing to wanting to use this. And they see it as too big of a leapfrog, which I don't understand why. Okay. It's in one hand, it's like television on your eyeballs, right? So something's happening and it's kind of like having a video, right? So it's not that far-fetched, right? I'm not hologramming you to like Mars or anything, right? So it's not that far-fetched. It's that a lot of this country right now has become very hesitant on decision-making. And slow. Like I could ask 20 people before I make a decision, or like, I don't know if I want to spend that money. Like just think about it, be strategic about how you spend this. You can step into it, but on the large scale, there's lots of people trying it, lots of organizations trying it. There's others taking a deeper step into it. We're still in the early days of it yet, but there is a movement towards this. What's also great is that in the ADD world that we live in, with TVs and phones buzzing and people fighting for your attention, in VR, when you're learning in VR, you are inside and you're not grabbing your phone. I have your full attention. And what better way to learn?
So what additional advice does Yao have for those looking to employ VR in order to help move their business forward?
This is not that big of a leap, right? And it's very close to movie technology, okay? The hardware puts it on your head, so you see all around you, which is fine, right? It's kind of like a really advanced movie, right? Our company has the unique tech of artificial intelligence inside the virtual reality, which allows us to create digital humans. So you can talk back and forth to the people inside, just like you and I are talking. That's quite unique. And that, I think, is what's going to propel VR forward. Because if I threw you in the forest, you could spin around and just look at trees all day. That's kind of boring. But if you can talk to the tree and the tree can answer back, or in a tour of Spain, everyone you ran into, you can talk to. That's more like real life. And how they adopt it, they can try some modules, look at some areas where they could really use a lot of help. So, for example, sales training drives immediate revenue. If I can make your salespeople practice and become better salespeople, you're going to make more money. There you go. Let's start there. Right? Mm-hmm. If you're a hospital where there's a lot of accidents happening, maybe you can train your doctors this way so there's fewer accidents. That helps right away. Find an area that's going to help a lot. That's where I would go. And then we have put together models where we're end to end, and we will also invest and spend innovation money. So we have innovation budgets to help build with corporations. Right? So there's ways to do this, but they have to be open-minded first. And this isn't for everyone, right? So some people are very fear-driven and they're follow mentality. And there's no way to convince them. You don't have to convince everyone. There's already people in the space. There's a huge uptick in AR, VR right now at enterprise because they've seen the benefits. And it'll eventually get around to everyone. Let's go start in the workplace first.
So what I hear is that it's really starting small too. It's finding, as you said, some of those areas that could see some pretty significant benefit, but it's really defining those use cases, small use cases, to prove it out and show the power of the technology to transform the way that they think about doing business.
Yep.
So what advice would you tell your younger self?
I would have gotten mentors sooner. I would have learned comedy and be more myself earlier. I didn't become my real self in its entirety until my late 30s. I was a version society wanted me to be. So life has been a journey. It's not like I'm giving you all this wisdom and my opinions because I've been this version the whole time. It was a progression. You know, that's what youth and wisdom and aging and experience is all about.
And to close, any last words of wisdom?
Just do it. Do something. Try something. If you're miserable, change your situation. Stop whining about it. Life is full of action, and build something. And it doesn't mean that I'm asking everyone to do it, but if you're in a situation where you feel you're stuck, just turn it into production and step. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying. And surround yourself with smart people.
100% agree. And finally, what's the best way listeners can connect with you?
Very easy to find online. You can go to our website, hatchery.vc. And, if you need something, ask a smart question and you'll get a response.
Thank you so much for your personal story. Pretty inspirational. And that insight into VR and the power that it has to really break through some of those typical challenges that business can face.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
The world of VR presents tremendous opportunities as it enables us to advance the way we learn through these immersive experiences. By helping employees develop their skills faster and more effectively than with traditional training methods, companies who adopt this technology can create a better prepared workforce. But what's important to remember is that it isn't about the technology first. It's about purpose, impact, and having an open mind to thinking and acting differently. Trying something that's never been done before. Open yourself up and your business to a world of opportunities that may not have existed, which is what Yao learned throughout her own career journey. Because at the end of the day, finding that purpose to deliver impact is the most important factor above anything else. Thanks for listening to the Strategic Momentum Podcast. You can connect with Yao by visiting her company website at hatchery.vc. That's hatchery.vc. To get show notes, links, and more tips and advice from this episode, you can visit us at flywheelassociates.com/podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, please leave us a review. And don't forget to follow Strategic Momentum on Facebook and Instagram. You can also join the Strategic Momentum Facebook community by searching Strategic Momentum in groups. I'm Connie Steele, and you've been listening to the Strategic Momentum Podcast.